The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was silent except for one sound, a voice repeating over and over. "This is Haven Colony. We are under attack. Please help us." The soft, trembling message echoed through the tall crystal walls. Each word carried fear, despair, and fading hope. The voice belonged to Illumin, one of the peaceful light beings who had never known war. Their world, Haven, had always been calm and beautiful, until now. Council members from a dozen different species sat in a circle, their faces lit by the pale blue light of the message hollow. No one spoke. Some looked away. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Ambassador Gray, a tall figure with silver skin and tired eyes, stood near the center. His thin hands trembled slightly as he paused the message. "The signal has been repeating for 3 days," he said. "If no one helps them, Haven will fall within hours." No one answered. The silence felt heavier than stone. At last, Admiral Pike, the only military officer in the room, spoke. His deep voice carried through the chamber. "The attackers are the Void Raiders," he said grimly. "They take everything they want, resources, technology, slaves, and burn what remains. They never leave survivors." A low murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone had heard stories of the Void Raiders. None wanted to face them. The head counselor, an ancient being with wooden skin and slow, thoughtful eyes, finally said, "We all feel sorrow for the Lumen, but Haven is too far. None of our peacekeeping fleets can reach them in time." Gray looked down at his datapad. He had already heard these excuses, from every world he had contacted in the last 72 hours. The Orit had said they were in the middle of a holy celebration. The Mandari were in hibernation season. The Ziv claimed they had no warships at all. Always the same answer: "We cannot help." Gray took a slow breath. There was one more option, but he knew the council would not like it. Still, he had no choice. "There is one planet left to ask," he said quietly. "One that could reach Haven in time." The head counselor frowned. "Which planet?" Gray's voice was steady, but his heart raced. "Earth." The chamber froze. For a moment, even the hum of the air vents seemed to stop. Someone whispered, "The Deathworlders." A cold wave passed through the room. The very word Earth carried fear and unease. Counselor Thren, a feathered alien with bright golden eyes, spoke sharply. "You cannot be serious, Ambassador. Humans come from a Class 12 death world. Their planet tried to kill them every single day: storms, predators, poisons, fire, ice, and instead of dying they fought back and won." Several council members nodded nervously. Everyone knew the stories. Humans were survivors, strong, unpredictable, and dangerous. Admiral Pike cleared his throat. "Counselor Thren is not wrong. But humans have a strange habit." He looked around the room. "They always answer distress calls. It's like an instinct." Gray nodded. "It's true. Since joining the council 5 years ago, Earth has answered 11 distress signals, from species they didn't even know. They fight only to protect others. Or to destroy their enemies," Thren muttered. "The Void Raiders are enemies of everyone," Pike said calmly. The head counselor tapped his long fingers on the table. "Even if we asked them what could one planet do? The Raiders have a fleet." Pike and Gray exchanged a knowing glance. Pike spoke softly, "Humans don't fight like the rest of us. They don't follow rules. They fight to win." A tense silence filled the chamber again. The idea of asking humans for help frightened them all, but it also sparked a strange, quiet hope. Finally, the head counselor sighed. "We will put it to a vote." Each member pressed a glowing rune on the table. One by one, the lights turned green or red. When the count was done, the result appeared above them: 7 in favor, 5 against. The motion passed. Barely. Ambassador Gray exhaled in relief and immediately began typing the formal request. His hands moved fast, his mind racing. He had no idea what kind of answer Earth would give, or if it would make things better or worse. The message was sent through a private communication channel. Everyone watched the glowing screen in silence. Most expected nothing. 3 minutes later, the console beeped. A reply. Gray read it aloud. "SOS acknowledged. HMS Nemesis en route. ETA, 72 hours. HMS?" asked the head counselor. "His Majesty's ship," Admiral Pike explained. "An old Terran tradition." He paused, frowning. "But I don't recognize the name Nemesis." A young aide rushed in and whispered to Pike. The Admiral's face turned pale. "The Nemesis," he said slowly, "is not a civilian vessel. It's a military destroyer." The chamber went utterly silent. "They are sending a warship," the head counselor said in disbelief. Ambassador Gray looked at the glowing message again, a chill running through him. The Lumen had asked for mercy. The Deathworlders had answered. No one in the chamber spoke, but they all felt the same uneasy thought. What kind of help comes riding on a ship called Nemesis? The message from Earth still glowed on the Council's main screen. SOS acknowledged. HMS Nemesis en route. ETA, 72 hours. No one moved. The words hung in the air like a shadow. The Nemesis, the head counselor repeated softly. That name does not sound peaceful. Admiral Pike folded his hands behind his back. No, he said, his voice flat. It's not meant to be. A quiet whisper ran through the chamber. Some council members exchanged nervous glances. Others stared at the holographic image of the message as if it might change. Perhaps this is a mistake, Counselor Thren said quickly. Her feathered crest trembled. We asked for help, not for war. Maybe Earth misunderstood. No, Gray interrupted. His voice was calm, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, fear or maybe respect. Humans understand distress signals better than anyone. They know exactly what they are doing. The head counselor turned to Admiral Pike. What do you know about this ship? Pike hesitated. Not much. The Nemesis doesn't appear in the civilian registry. It's a military vessel, yes, but an old one, experimental maybe. Earth doesn't reveal much about its defense forces. Counselor Thren leaned forward, her voice sharp. Then how can we trust them? They could destroy Haven just as easily as they destroy the Raiders. Gray met her gaze. Because they always answer distress calls. Because when others run away, they go toward the fire. The head counselor sighed. Then we wait. The chamber emptied slowly, leaving only the hum of the lights and the quiet pulse of the repeating message. Haven was still calling for help. But now someone had answered. 72 hours later, orbit of Haven Colony. The dark space above Haven shimmered. The Void Raider fleet, 12 ships strong, drifted like hungry wolves around the dying planet. Flames and smoke covered Haven's surface. The once beautiful cities were now piles of black ruins. On the Raider flagship, a massive warlord sat in his iron chair, laughing. No one is coming, he growled to his crew. These soft council worlds never fight. Soon, the Lumen will be nothing but ash. Then one of his lieutenants shouted, Captain! FTL signature detected. The warlord turned his head slowly. Council ship. No, sir, the lieutenant replied. His voice shook. Unknown configuration. Small, but fast. The warlord grinned. Another traitor to burn. Let's make an example. The space in front of them rippled again, and suddenly, a single vessel emerged from the void. It was sleek, black, and silent. Its surface shimmered with silver markings that no one recognized. The ship broadcast one short message across all channels. This is the Terran vessel HMS Nemesis. Identify yourselves and surrender immediately. The Raider warlord laughed so hard that his chest plates rattled. One ship. Against 12? The humans truly are insane. But his laughter faded when he saw the readings. The Nemesis was charging weapons, but no heat signatures matched any known technology. It was as if the ship itself were alive. Destroy it, he snarled. Show them what happens to heroes. On board the HMS Nemesis, the interior of the human warship was quiet and dimly lit. The crew moved like shadows, calm and focused. Each wore black armor with the Earth emblem, a blue and green sphere surrounded by silver wings. At the center of the bridge stood Captain Elise Ward, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Target lock, she asked. Confirmed, replied the weapons officer. 12 Raider ships. Shields active. They're charging plasma cannons. Ward nodded once. Transmit again. Final warning. A calm, emotionless voice filled the dark bridge, the ship's AI. Transmission sent. No response. Ward's jaw tightened. Then we answer in kind. The crew prepared in silence. Every movement was precise, controlled. There was no fear in their faces, only purpose. Fire main battery, the captain said. The Nemesis came alive. Blue light surged along its hull. Then, from its underbelly, a single pulse of white energy erupted, brighter than a star. In one instant, the nearest Raider cruiser vanished, torn apart into glowing dust. The explosion lit up space like dawn. On the Raider flagship, alarms screamed. What was that? Shouted the warlord. No known weapon can do that. They destroyed a ship with one shot, cried the lieutenant. The warlord slammed his clawed fist against the armrest. All ships attack. Swarm them. The raiders' fleet moved like a pack of wolves around a tiger, fast but foolish. The nemesis rotated slowly, methodically. Every few seconds, a flash of light marked another destroyed raider vessel. One by one, the predators turned into wreckage. Inside the nemesis, the human crew watched silently. No one celebrated. No one spoke. They had seen this before, the price of answering a call for help. In less than 5 minutes, the entire Void Raider fleet was gone. Only drifting debris remained. Status? Captain Ward asked quietly. All enemy vessels neutralized, replied the AI. No survivors detected. Ward looked at the burning world below. Prepare medical teams. We're going down. Surface of Haven Colony. The sky above Haven was still dark with smoke when the nemesis descended through the clouds. The Lumen survivors, huddled in the ruins, looked up in awe and fear. They had expected soft voices, maybe gentle healers from the council. Instead they saw a massive warship, black, silent, powerful. When the humans stepped out, the ground seemed to shake. Their armor reflected the orange glow of the fires around them. The Lumen leader, trembling, approached slowly. Are you here to help us? Captain Ward removed her helmet. Her eyes were tired but kind. Yes, she said simply. You called for help. We came. Behind her, human soldiers moved quickly, setting up field hospitals, distributing supplies, clearing debris. They worked with quiet focus the same way they fought. The Lumen leader watched them, whispering, You destroyed the raiders. Ward looked toward the burning horizon. They gave you no mercy, she said softly. So we gave them none. Galactic Council, 12 hours later. The council chamber buzzed with incoming reports. Admiral Pike stood at the center, reading the summary from Earth's fleet. Haven is secure, he said. All Void Raider ships destroyed. Human casualties, minimal. Lumen survivors, over 3,000 rescued. A long silence followed. Then Counselor Thren whispered, They did it. One ship destroyed an entire fleet. The head counselor leaned back slowly. They asked for mercy, he murmured. And the Deathworlders sent vengeance. End of Part 2, Cliffhanger. Somewhere, in the darkness of space, the Nemesis moved quietly toward the next signal. Its engines glowed faint blue, fading into the endless stars. And deep inside the ship, the AI's voice echoed softly. Distress beacon detected. Coordinates received. Captain orders? Captain Ward's eyes opened. Plot a course, she said. Let's answer it. Fade to black. The fires on Haven had stopped burning, but the smell of smoke still filled the air. The sky was gray with ash. Once, this had been a bright world of crystal rivers and shining cities. Now, most of it lay silent, a wounded planet trying to breathe again. Captain Elise Ward stood at the edge of a broken tower, looking down at what was left of the main city. Human soldiers moved below her, rebuilding power grids, helping survivors and clearing out the ruins. The Nemesis rested above in orbit, a dark shadow against the clouds, its engines glowing faintly blue. For the first time in days, the world was quiet. Too quiet. The Lumen survivors worked beside the humans. They were small and fragile-looking, glowing softly with light that flickered when they were afraid. Even now their glow was dim. They had lost almost everything, families, homes, memories. But when they saw the humans helping without hesitation, something like hope returned to their faces. A young Lumen child tugged at her mother's arm. Are they angels? She whispered. Her mother shook her head slowly. No, my light, they are humans. The girl looked up at the sky, where the dark warship floated like a silent god. Then why did they come? The mother smiled sadly. Because we asked for help. In the city center, a small camp had been built. Tents, generators, food stations, all set up with military precision. Captain Ward walked through the camp, inspecting the operations. Every soldier she passed saluted. Her second officer, Lieutenant Mason, approached with a data pad. All main systems on Haven are offline, he reported. We've restored water and power to the central zone, but the outer sectors are beyond repair. Ward nodded. And the raiders? Nothing on long-range scanners, Mason replied. But, he hesitated. But what? There's noise, he said quietly. Encrypted signals in deep space. Could be survivors. Could be something else. Ward frowned. Keep tracking them. I don't want any surprises. Inside the Lumen Council shelter, Ambassador Gray spoke with the colony's remaining leaders. They thanked him again and again for bringing the humans, but he could see the worry in their eyes. They fight with such fury, one elder said softly. It frightened some of our people. Gray nodded. They frighten the council too, he admitted. But sometimes fear is the only thing that evil understands. The elder looked up at the sky. Do you believe they will stay? Gray hesitated. Humans never stay, he said finally. They help then move on. They don't fight for glory. They fight because someone must. Aboard the HMS Nemesis, orbit above Haven. The ship's interior hummed with quiet energy. The crew was tired but alert. In the command chamber, the AI's soft voice filled the silence. Captain, long-range sensors detecting energy distortions in nearby sectors. Captain Ward turned her chair. Define distortions. Multiple FTL signatures. Small, scattered. Estimated arrival, 6 hours. Ward leaned forward. The raiders are coming back. The AI paused. Probability, 92%. The remaining raider fleet is regrouping. Ward's face was calm, but her eyes hardened. They're coming for revenge. Of course they are, Mason muttered. We hit them too hard. They'll want to make an example. Ward looked out the viewport at Haven below. Then we'll make one first. 6 hours later, Haven Colony. The sun had not yet risen when the sky began to change. At first it was only a flicker, small flashes of light far above the clouds. But soon the Lumen survivors noticed. Children stopped playing. Workers froze mid-step. Even the air felt heavier. Then the alarms sounded. Captain Ward's voice came through every communicator on the planet. All personnel prepare for defense. This is not a drill. Raider ships inbound. Panic spread across the camps, but the human soldiers moved fast. Barricades were reinforced. Artillery cannons were powered up. Medical tents were cleared. Every soldier knew their position. In the sky, the Nemesis shifted, turning toward the incoming threat. Its hull shimmered as energy fields activated. From the eastern horizon, a fleet appeared, 15 raider warships, larger than before. They had returned, angrier and better armed. Their black hulls reflected the fires below. On the raider flagship, the warlord growled. One human ship destroyed my fleet. Now I bring 3 times that number. He raised his clawed hand. No mercy. Burn the planet. Leave nothing alive. The fleet opened fire. Battle over Haven. The first volley struck the upper atmosphere, creating storms of plasma and thunder. But the Nemesis was already moving. It dove into the fire like a predator, returning shots with deadly accuracy. Every hit from its cannons tore holes through raider ships. Enemy flanking left. Mason shouted. Rotate shields. Fire secondary batteries. Ward commanded. The Nemesis spun gracefully, a dark shadow cutting through fire. Explosions bloomed across the void. Still the raiders pushed forward. Their sheer numbers began to press the humans back. Ward clenched her fists. Prepare the Onyx drive. Mason turned to her, shocked. Ma'am, the Onyx drive's never been used in combat. It could destabilize. Do it, Ward said coldly. This ends now. Surface of Haven, Lumen perspective. From the ground, the Lumen watched in terror and awe as the sky became a battlefield. Each explosion painted the heavens red and gold. The Lumen elder whispered, Is that our doom? Ambassador Gray stood beside him, his eyes reflecting the light of the war above. No, he said softly. That's humanity. That's what they do when someone attacks the weak. The elder looked at him. They fight like demons. Gray nodded. Yes, but they fight for angels. Back in orbit, the turning point. The Nemesis's engines roared. Deep in its core, energy gathered, dark and bright at the same time. The ship's AI announced calmly. Onyx drive charging. Energy containment at 90%. Recommend distance clearance. Ward stood tall. All ships within radius? All enemy vessels confirmed. Fire. A single pulse of black light erupted from the Nemesis. It expanded like a silent wave, swallowing everything in its path. Raider ships flickered, then vanished. When the light faded, only debris remained, drifting quietly through the stars. The Nemesis floated alone, its hull scarred but still strong. Enemy fleet destroyed, the AI reported. No survivors. Ward exhaled slowly. Good work. Begin rescue scans. Aftermath, the storm passes. On Haven the sky slowly cleared. The air smelled of ozone and ash. But no more weapons fired. No more ships fell. It was over. The Lumen came out from shelters, blinking in the sunlight. When they saw the Nemesis hovering peacefully above them, many knelt and prayed. Not out of fear but out of awe. One child pointed upward. The Deathworlders saved us again. Her mother held her close. Yes, she whispered. But I hope we never need them again. Aboard the Nemesis, the bridge was quiet. Smoke rose from damaged consoles. Lieutenant Mason turned to the captain. We did it, ma'am. Haven is safe. Ward didn't smile. She looked tired. Safe for now. But every time we answer one call, there's another waiting. The AI's voice returned, soft and neutral. Incoming transmission. Source, Galactic Council. Priority 1. Ward sighed. Let's hear it. The hologram of Ambassador Gray appeared, his face pale but grateful. Captain Ward, he said, on behalf of the Galactic Council and the Lumen people, thank you. The stars were silent again. The battlefield above Haven was gone. Only fragments of metal drifted in the void, glowing faintly as they tumbled through space. The Nemesis hung among the ruins like a shadow made of steel and fire. Its hull was scarred, blackened in places where plasma had struck, but it still stood proud, alive, watching. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of ozone and smoke. Crew members moved through the corridors with tired faces. They had fought for 20 straight hours. Many hadn't slept in 2 days. Yet none complained. They were human. They were Deathworlders. This was what they were made for. Bridge of the Nemesis. Captain Elise Ward sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the main screen. The image showed the drifting remains of the Raider fleet. Status? She asked quietly. Lieutenant Mason answered, voice hoarse from exhaustion. All enemy vessels confirmed destroyed. No life signs detected. Ward nodded slowly. Casualty report? 5 dead, Mason said. 17 injured. Medics say most will recover. Ward looked down for a moment. 5 names. 5 more ghosts to carry. Make sure their families are notified. Full honors. Yes, ma'am. The AI's calm, mechanical voice filled the silence. Captain, transmission received from the surface. Ambassador Gray is requesting to speak. Ward took a breath. Put him through. Communication with Haven. Gray's hologram appeared, flickering slightly from the interference. His face was pale, eyes hollow. Behind him, the sky of Haven was bright for the first time in days. Captain Ward, he began, the Lumen wish to express their deepest gratitude. You've saved them from extinction. Ward's voice was calm but cold. They're safe. That's what matters. Gray hesitated. The Council, they are concerned. Reports say you used a weapon that... The Onyx Drive, Ward interrupted. Yes. That weapon erased an entire fleet, Captain. The Council fears. Ward's tone sharpened. The Council feared the Void Raiders for years. They watched whole worlds burn because they were afraid to act. Tell them they don't have to fear the Raiders anymore. Gray looked away, uncomfortable. They will not like your tone. Ward's lips curled slightly. I'm not here to be liked, Ambassador. I'm here to make sure no more distress signals go unanswered. The transmission ended. Silence before the storm inside. For a few hours the ship rested. The crew repaired systems, recharged power cells, and treated the wounded. But in the mess hall, a quiet tension lingered. Some soldiers whispered to each other, glancing nervously at the floor. One young engineer, Private Lane, spoke softly to his friend. Did we go too far? That Onyx Drive, it didn't just destroy the ships. It vaporized everything. Even the bodies. His friend, Sergeant Rivas, looked at him with tired eyes. They were raiders. Slavers. But I get it. It doesn't feel right, does it? Lane shook his head. We came to help. Not to erase. Rivas stared at the table. Maybe vengeance is the only language monsters understand. The ship hummed around them, alive and listening. The signal. Hours later, as most of the crew slept, the AI spoke suddenly through the bridge speakers. Captain, long-range sensors have detected multiple energy signatures. Unknown pattern. Ward stood immediately. Show me. The screen flickered to life. Dozens of red points appeared on the outer edges of the Haven system. Then hundreds. Mason, who had just entered the bridge, froze. That can't be right. That's a fleet. A massive fleet. Ward's voice was ice. Identification. Not Void Raiders, the AI replied. Energy readings consistent with multiple species technology, ships from Orit, Mandari, and Ziv factions. Estimated number, 300. Ward frowned. The Council sent them? Negative, the AI answered. No Council markings. Weapons armed. Shields active. Fleet formation hostile. Ward's stomach turned cold. They're not coming to thank us, she said quietly. They're coming to stop us. Council reaction. At the Galactic Council Hall, panic spread like wildfire. They destroyed an entire fleet. Counselor Thren shouted. A single human warship wiped out 15 raider vessels with one strike. If they decide to turn against us. They won't, Gray interrupted. But his voice wavered. He wasn't sure anymore. The head counselor looked grim. We sent them to help. They became executioners. This cannot be ignored. Within hours, several species launched fleets for investigation. But everyone knew the truth. They feared Earth's power. They wanted to remind humanity who ruled the stars. Back on the Nemesis, preparing for war again. Captain Ward watched the radar as hundreds of dots closed in. Mason whispered, 300 ships against one? This isn't a battle. It's suicide. Ward's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. We'll see. The AI spoke. Incoming transmission from lead vessel. Message reads, Terran ship, power down your weapons and surrender. You are under Council authority for use of forbidden technology. Ward chuckled quietly without humor. They called us for help and now they call us criminals. Mason swallowed hard. Orders, ma'am? Ward's gaze hardened. No one attacks my crew. Prepare defensive grid. The wrath unleashed. Space around Haven became alive again. The Nemesis moved forward slowly, one dark ship against a wall of light. Hundreds of enemy vessels spread out in a wide circle. The lead council ship opened fire. Bright blue plasma streaked across the void. The Nemesis shuddered but held strong. Return fire, Ward commanded. The human cannons roared. In seconds, 5 enemy ships vanished. Mason shouted, They're targeting our engines. Divert power. Deploy mirror drones. Ward ordered. Tiny metallic spheres launched from the Nemesis, reflecting enemy fire and scattering signals. The human warship slipped through the chaos like a predator through a school of fish. Enemy ships fell one after another. But still, the numbers were overwhelming. Inside the bridge, alarms screamed. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Mason gritted his teeth. Shields down to 30%. Ward's voice stayed calm. We can't win by running. Time to remind them why they call us Deathworlders. She stood, her shadow long across the glowing deck. Arm the Onyx drive. Mason turned to her, shocked. Again? Captain, it could destroy the planet below. Ward looked at him, eyes cold and certain. Better one planet scorched than a galaxy enslaved by fear. The AI's tone was flat. Onyx drive charging. Containment at 60%, 70, 80? Outside, the Council fleet tried to retreat, realizing too late what was happening. Too close, one alien captain shouted. They'll kill us all. Ward whispered one word. Fire. The fire of a death world. A burst of black and silver light erupted from the Nemesis. The wave expanded in all directions, silent, smooth, unstoppable. For a brief moment, the stars themselves seemed to blink out. When the light faded, space was empty. Hundreds of ships, gone. Nothing left but fragments of ash and broken code. The Nemesis floated alone again, engines flickering weakly. Inside, everything was quiet. The crew stared at their screens, too stunned to speak. Mason finally whispered, We just destroyed a fleet from the Council. Ward stood motionless. The glow from the viewport reflected in her eyes. They fired first. Aftermath. Hours later, the Council received fragments of the battle report. No ships returned. No signals came back. Only one message reached the Council chamber, a simple. The galaxy was quiet again, but it was not peace. It was fear. News of the destruction spread like wildfire through every star system. Entire fleets, gone. Hundreds of ships erased in seconds by one human vessel, the HMS Nemesis. No one knew exactly how. Some said the humans had found ancient technology. Others whispered they had created a weapon that devoured light itself. But the truth was simpler. They had done what no one else dared to do. The Council in chaos. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. Voices shouted over each other, fear, anger, disbelief. Counselor Thren slammed her wings against the table. They destroyed our fleet. They murdered thousands. We must strike back. Across the table, Ambassador Gray's voice trembled. Strike back with what? You saw what happened to the raiders. You saw what happened to our own ships. The humans, they destroyed them all. The head counselor rose slowly, his wooden skin creaking like old bark. Order, he said. The word carried little power now. He looked at Gray. You were their representative. You defended them. You told us they could be trusted. Gray's mouth was dry. They answered the distress call. They saved Haven. Without them, the Lumen would be extinct. Counselor Thren hissed. At what cost? They burned everything in their path. They are not saviors, they are monsters wrapped in metal. The head counselor looked down at the report before him, a single transmission from Earth. Do not ask for help if you fear the answer. He sighed. Perhaps the monsters are the ones who wait for others to die before they act. The chamber fell silent. On Earth, far from the Council's chaos, Earth looked calm from orbit. Blue oceans, green forests, golden cities glowing under the night sky. But inside the Terran Defense Command there was tension. In a large conference room, military officers and politicians argued in low, urgent voices. General Arya Holt stood at the center, her hands behind her back. The Nemesis has returned to dock. The crew is alive. The ship is heavily damaged. A senator slammed his hand on the table. Heavily damaged? They annihilated a fleet. Do you know how many species just declared sanctions against us? Holt's expression didn't change. Do you know how many colonies are alive because of that fleet? Haven is free. The Void Raiders are gone. The senator glared. You turned the entire galaxy against humanity. Holt stepped closer, her voice sharp. We didn't start that war. We finished it. Every single one of those council fleets fired first. Another officer spoke quietly. Public opinion across human colonies is divided. Some call Captain Ward a hero. Others call her a war criminal. Holt turned toward the holographic display showing the Nemesis in orbit, a dark, wounded giant. She did her duty. She answered the call. That's what matters. Captain Ward's return. The Nemesis hovered above Earth's atmosphere like a silent sentinel. Inside the ship was quiet. Half the crew had been reassigned. Repairs were underway. Captain Elise Ward stood on the observation deck, staring at the planet below. Her reflection in the glass looked older, shadows under her eyes, a faint scar on her cheek. Lieutenant Mason walked in slowly. You should rest, Captain. Ward didn't turn. I've had enough rest. I keep seeing their faces. Mason hesitated. The council soldiers? Ward shook her head. Our own. The 5 who didn't make it home. There was silence for a moment. Only the low hum of the ship's engines filled the air. They called me a hero, Ward said finally. But when I close my eyes, all I see is fire. Mason looked at her with quiet respect. You saved a world. You can't save everyone. Ward's gaze stayed fixed on Earth. No. But I can try to make sure we never need to do that again. A visit from Earth Command. Later that day, the sound of boots echoed through the corridor. General Holt entered the bridge, her uniform immaculate. Ward saluted. General. At ease, Holt said. She looked around the bridge, noting the scars on the walls, the burnt panels. You've been through hell. Ward gave a tired smile. Hell followed us home. Holt nodded. You know why I'm here. Ward sighed. You're grounding the Nemesis. Temporarily, Holt replied. The Council demands an inquiry. They're calling it a war crime. We need to show cooperation, or risk full-scale sanctions. Ward's eyes narrowed. So they attack us, we defend ourselves, and we're the criminals? Holt didn't answer. She placed a small data chip on the console. This is your official statement file. You'll testify tomorrow. Ward picked it up but didn't look at it. And what if I refuse? Holt met her gaze. Then they'll take it as admission of guilt. And Earth will lose its only seat on the Council. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Ward said softly, we fought to save lives. Not for politics. I know, Holt said quietly. But politics is the only war that never ends. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, Captain, you did the right thing. The trial begins. The Council assembled once again, this time under heavy security. Holographic screens showed the faces of millions watching across the galaxy. At the center stood Captain Ward, projected as a hologram from Earth. Ambassador Gray was there too, serving as her representative. The head counselor spoke first. Captain Ward of Earth. You stand accused of using forbidden technology, causing the destruction of 300 vessels and the deaths of thousands. How do you plead? Ward's voice was calm, steady. Not guilty. Counselor Thren leaned forward, feathers trembling. Do you deny destroying those ships? No, Ward said. I deny that it was murder. Thren's voice rose. Then what do you call it? Ward met her eyes through the hologram. War. The chamber buzzed with shock. Ward continued, her voice cold and clear. You sent fleets to stop us because we did what you were too afraid to do, fight back. You watched worlds burn, you ignored the cries for help, and then you condemned the ones who acted. The head counselor raised a hand. Enough, Captain. This is not a forum for speeches. Ward stared directly at him. Then perhaps it should be. Silence. For a moment no one dared to speak. Gray finally stepped forward. Members of the council, humanity may be many things but they are not your enemies. They answered your call when no one else did. Do not punish them for your own fear. The chamber was still. Then the head counselor spoke. The council will deliberate. Verdict. Hours later the decision came. Captain Ward and the crew of the HMS Nemesis acted without authorization, but their actions prevented the extinction of a council member species. Therefore charges are dismissed. The Onyx drive weapon, however, is hereby banned under galactic law. Ward exhaled slowly. The weight lifted, slightly. But she knew what the verdict really meant. They feared the weapon, not the war. After the trial, Gray met Ward outside the chamber. He looked older, tired. You did well, Captain. You made them listen. Ward shook her head. They listen because they're afraid. Gray sighed. Fear can be a teacher. Ward looked out a nearby viewport. The stars shimmered faintly. Or it can be the start of something worse. Return to the Nemesis. That night, Ward returned to her ship. The corridors were dim, the lights soft. Mason was waiting at the bridge. This chapter, titled Legacy of the Deathworlders, ties together the emotion, mystery, and moral power of the entire saga. It's cinematic, dramatic, and written in simple, clear English for your audience. Perfect for voiceover storytelling on your HFY sci-fi channel. Length 500 words. Long, immersive, and emotional. Part 6, Legacy of the Deathworlders. It had been 6 months since the destruction of the Council fleet. 6 months since the Nemesis had vanished into deep space, chasing another distress call into the unknown. And in those 6 months the galaxy had changed. The Void Raiders were gone, their fleets shattered, their leaders hunted. The Lumen rebuilt their cities, lighting their world once again with gentle, silver towers. But peace did not bring comfort. Peace brought whispers. Whispers of the humans, the Deathworlders. Of a ship called Nemesis that appeared when hope was gone, and disappeared again into the dark. The rumor of the Nemesis. Across spaceports and outposts, in dusty taverns and quiet refueling stations, stories spread. Some said the humans were angels of vengeance, saviors who came when no one else would. Others said they were demons of war, creatures born from a world too cruel to die. On the far rim of known space, a young pilot once claimed he saw them. He said a ship appeared out of nowhere, massive and silent, black as midnight. It didn't fire. It didn't threaten. It only dropped supplies and medicine to a dying colony, and then vanished without a trace. No one believed him. But deep down they all wanted to. Back on Earth, in a quiet garden outside the Terran Command Academy, Admiral Arya Holt sat on a stone bench, looking up at the stars. Beside her was a small plaque. In memory of those who fell aboard the HMS Nemesis. They answered the call. A voice came from behind her. Still waiting for them? Holt turned to see Ambassador Gray walking toward her, his usual diplomatic calm replaced by something softer. They're not coming back, Holt said. It's been half a year. If they were alive. Gray interrupted gently. If they were alive you'd already know. Holt smiled faintly. Maybe. But part of me hopes they're still out there, doing what they do best. Gray sat beside her. Saving the ones no one else will. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the stars. In the outer rim, far beyond charted space, in a cold, dying system, the Nemesis drifted silently. The hull was scarred, its once smooth armor cracked from countless battles. Inside, life continued in quiet rhythm. The crew had grown smaller, older, harder. But they still wore the same symbol on their uniforms, a red flame over a black circle. Captain Elise Ward stood on the observation deck, staring at the dying sun ahead. Lieutenant Mason entered, holding a tablet. New signal, Captain. It's faint, but it's definitely an SOS. Ward turned. Location. Mason shook his head. That's the strange part. It's coming from Haven. Ward frowned. That's impossible. Haven was safe. I checked twice, Mason said. Same coordinates. But the message, it's not from the Lumen. Ward stepped closer. Play it. The speakers crackled and a low, distorted voice filled the bridge. This is Haven Colony, unknown ships in orbit, not raiders, not council, they're watching. Static swallowed the rest. Ward's eyes darkened. Set a course. Mason hesitated. Captain, we're running low on fuel and supplies. The engines. Ward cut him off. We're Deathworlders. We don't ignore distress calls. He nodded slowly. Aye, Captain. The return to Haven. 3 days later, the Nemesis arrived in Haven orbit. What they saw made every heart on board go cold. The once bright cities were dark again. The Lumen settlements had been burned. And above the planet hung a fleet, silent, motionless. The AI spoke softly. No known council signatures detected. Scanning, structure and design unfamiliar. Ward leaned forward. Put it on screen. The image appeared, ships shaped like curved knives, dark and glimmering like oil. No markings. No transponders. Mason whispered, they're not council. They're not raiders. Who are they? Ward stared at the screen. Something new. Then, without warning, one of the alien ships turned toward them. A voice broke through the comms, calm, cold, and mechanical. Terran vessel. You are trespassing in occupied space. Leave or be destroyed. Ward's voice was steady. This is Captain Elise Ward of the HMS Nemesis. We received a distress signal from Haven Colony. Identify yourselves. The colony is ours now. Leave, Deathworlder. Mason muttered, well, that answers that. Ward straightened. Arm weapons. Battle over Haven. The stars came alive with fire. The enemy ships moved fast, faster than anything the Nemesis had ever faced. Evasive pattern Delta. Ward shouted. The Nemesis rolled and twisted, dodging bright arcs of plasma. One shot hit the side, tearing open a section of the hull. Shields at 50%. Mason yelled. Ward gritted her teeth. Return fire. The Nemesis unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds and plasma bursts. 2 enemy ships exploded instantly. But for each one destroyed, 2 more appeared. The AI's voice was calm even under chaos. Unknown energy reading detected. Source, planetary surface. Ward's heart sank. They've got ground weapons too. Mason looked at her. We can't win this one. Ward's eyes narrowed. We're not here to win. We're here to protect. The last stand. The Nemesis descended into Haven's atmosphere, engines screaming. Below, cities burned. The Lumen were running, glowing figures scattering under the shadows of alien machines. Ward turned to her crew. All batteries fire at will. Cover the civilians. Massive cannons thundered, tearing through the alien walkers. The ground shook with every impact. But the enemy was endless. Power failing. Mason called. Divert from life support, Ward ordered. That'll kill us in 20 minutes. Ward didn't blink. Then we'd better make it count. The final transmission. The enemy fleet closed in. The Nemesis was crippled, smoke filled the bridge, alarms screamed, and the deck was covered in fire. Ward limped to the console. Mason's status. Engines gone. Weapons offline. We're done. Ward looked at the shattered screen showing Haven below. Not yet. She reached into a secured panel and pulled out a small black key. Mason's eyes widened. That's the Onyx drive. It'll wipe the planet. Ward's voice was quiet but fierce. No. I'll set it to burn only the atmosphere. The ships above will fall, but the surface will live. Mason shook his head. Captain, if you do this, we won't survive. Ward smiled faintly. Then we go out doing what we were meant to do. She pressed the key into the console. The ship trembled. Onyx drive charging, the AI said. Final command authorization required. Ward whispered, Elise Ward. Command code, Mercy. The AI paused. Command accepted. A blinding light filled the bridge. Aftermath. Days later, rescue ships from nearby systems arrived at Haven. They found no alien ships. No wreckage of the enemy fleet. Only the Lumen, alive. Their cities damaged but still standing. And high above the planet, a single fragment of metal drifted among the clouds. Part of the hull, the name still visible, Nemesis. The ship was gone. The crew lost. But the story didn't end there. The legacy spreads. Across the galaxy, new signals began to appear. Distress calls, answered by unknown vessels. Each one bore the same insignia, a red flame on black.